Okay, so we already started you already are familiar with the inheritance concept because recall when I explained the class concepts in the previous chapter, I discussed about the pillars of object-oriented programming where we discussed about the inheritance. Okay, inheritance is nothing but inheriting the properties, that is the attributes and method of one class to another class. Okay, so that is called inheritance in class. And the parent class is, it'll be like from which you're inheriting it from. If you're inheriting the other classes from one class, then that is called parent class. Okay, also called base class. Okay, so from what class you're creating from inheriting the another class. Okay, that is the newly created class from the other class is called child class or derived class, also known as derived class. Okay, so next, how we are going to hand of parent and child class, because when you create a new class as a child class, the child class can inherit the properties of parent class as well, right? When I say properties, it is both attributes and methods. Okay, for example, let's say that we are going to create a class for a market. Okay, a class called item for a market, which has the attributes name, name of an item and quantity of an item. These two are attributes. Okay, and this class is going to be the base class, which has these two attributes. And now we are going to create another class. Okay, new class. This is going to be the child class of this parent class. Okay, you can just look at this. Okay, this parent class is item, and we are going to create a new class. This class is the child class, which is going to inherit the property of this item class, and also it is going to have its own class. Okay, for what additional thing that it is going to have. This new class is for produce. That is it is for vegetables and fruits and dairy, so which has an expiration date. Okay, that should be added. Okay, so in addition to the item class, we are going to add this new feature, that is expiration. Okay, so let's deal with this. Okay, we are going to solve this problem, not a problem. We are going to write a code for this. Okay, and then we are going to see how we can use the inheritance concept. Instead of creating a new class with name and quantity and then expiration date, we are going to make this as a base class, and we are going to let the another class to inherit the attributes from this class. Okay, so before going into that, why do we need to do that? Already we discussed about that. What are the advantages of using inheritance? First thing, code reusability. You don't need to define the method setters one again. You don't need to rewrite all this code. You need set name, set quantity, display. All those things need to be written again for the produce. So we are saving the code. Okay, simply by saying that produce is going to be item. This single line will replace rewriting the code again. Okay, so code reusability and reduce programs effort. So you have to again write it or copy and paste. So the programmer's effort is reduced and maintenance will be easy and readability is also easy. Okay, this is a very small code that could see you have this much code, but in a real world problem, if you take real world problem, there will be at least 50 to 60 methods inside a class, and you have to write all those 50 to 60 methods for the new class. Then you can imagine how much efforts, waste of efforts, right? So when you do this inheritance, that will save some time, and also it will be easier for it will be readable. Okay, it will be more readable. Okay, now let's write the code for that concept that we have discussed about. Item is a class, and we are going to create a produce class, which is going to inherit the property. Okay, so the item class is going to have the attribute name and quantity, and the child class produce is going to have expiration date as a new attribute. So let's start. You can start writing the code. You can just do it along with me. So we are just doing defining a class, and this class name is item, and we are defining the constructor Okay, all the methods should have self. Okay, so what are the attributes this item class is going to have? The attribute names are name and quantity. Name of an item and the quantity of an item. Okay, so you cannot simply directly access it. You have to use the object dot. Here the object, whatever object that you are going to instantiate, that object. To represent that, self dot. Name. And your normally, if it is an integer, you will pass, you will just assign it with some 0. Okay, or if it is a string, you can simply pass the empty string. The purpose is to initialize and allocate some memory space. Self dot quantity. Since it is an integer, we are assigning 0 to this. Okay, now we are going to define the setup function. Set underscore, what is the attribute name? Name. And then what are the parameters that you're going to pass? Self. And then formal parameter. Okay, name. Self dot name is going to be name. You don't need to use the same thing. You can, this is simply, you can even use the same parameter name or different parameter name. Anyway, this is just for your readability. For the system, it is same. If it is not confusing to you, I will just write it as name. Similarly, define set quantity. Again, self quantity. Self dot the attribute, which is quantity, that you're going to assign with the variable that you're going to pass. Okay. And then to display the output, we are creating another method to display the output. So pass the default parameter, which is self. And then we are going to print the self dot name, comma, self dot quantity. This is not the parameters, this is the attributes. You have to differentiate that. Okay, this is the parent class. Now we are going to define the child class. Class produce with the uppercase. It should be start with the uppercase. Okay. And then here we have to pass what? The parent's class name should be passed to the child class. This is where you're doing the inheritance. Okay. So you have to specify this is going to inherit the items class. Okay. This is child class definition. Inheriting the item class. Okay. It also has its own constructor. The child class also will have its own constructor, self, and it is going to deal with the expiration. But in addition to that, when you define a constructor, here you have to note it down. You cannot simply specify the attribute of the new child class. You have to, here you have to say the constructor information of the parent class. How can you say that? Here you have to say item, that is the class name, that will become the object, okay? Class name, unit. This code is important. This is how you're accessing the attributes of the parent class. So this code is important. This code is important. Okay. Call base class constructor. Without calling the base class constructor, you cannot accept. You cannot access it. Call the base class constructor. In addition to that, it is also going to have its own attribute. And we are just setting this as an empty string. So the constructor part is done. Now the setter to handle the variable. So this is expiration, right? So as usual, set underscore expiration and self, okay, and then variable, that is the argument, formal argument, actual argument, okay. So which is going to be expire. And you have to set it with this attribute. How can you set it? Self dot expiration is going to have this expire, whatever you are passing, by calling the setter method. And we're going to define the getters as well here, because that is going to be passed to the display. Get getters to display that expiration date. Getter, that is get underscore expiration. You don't need anything for getter. All you need is this object. So what we are going to do, we are going to return self dot expiration. Okay, so class definition for parent class and child class is done. Next, we are going to do the object instantiation. So let's create an object instantiation, where it is going to be the object for the parent class. Object instantiation, where we are going to call all the setters method. How can you call? Item 1 dot setter. What is the setter? Set name. Okay, so here the name of the item. Okay, cookie. Let's say cookies. You're passing cookies, and this cookies will be saved to where? Will be assigned in, will be passed to this. Okay, it will be passed here. It's an argument. That argument will be assigned with this attribute through this setter. And what is that quantity? Item 1 dot quantity, right? So you have to call the method. So as usual, use the tab that will give you whatever the methods or that we have defined. Based on that, it will give you. So if you use tab, you can select set quantity, where you can pass the quantity, let's say 10. Okay, now we are going to call the display method to display the values. Again, the object dot tab. Here we're going to display the input. Simply call the display. Okay, so once you run this code, you can see whatever you have given inside the display, it will just print it out. Okay, so we have just used the parent class. Now let's do object instantiation for the child class. Okay, so item 2, where we are going to pass this. This is going to be the object of child class. That means this is going to handle some produce which has an expiration date. Okay, so item 2 dot tab, we are going to pass the name first, set name method, and we are going to say banana or whatever, vegetable or fruits, and then say tab set quantity 12, and then item 2, it has an expiration date. So say get set expiration, and you're saying that expiration date is, what is the date? February 28, right? So March 7, 2023. That is the expiration date. Okay, and then you're going to display whatever value that is assigned to this item by calling the display method. Okay, now it will tell you. So without inserting the values, this code is just to make you practice in the inheritance. The important concept is how you are passing this parent class to the child class. This is the inheritance. And then how you are calling the constructor of the base class in the child class. Those two are new concepts to you. Other than that, this object instantiation, calling the setters, getters, all those things are easy. Okay, so you can do it like that, or if you want to be more, if we use the what to say? Did it, okay, so does it give you the expiration for the banana? It doesn't give you the expiration date, right? So it does gives you the display. Okay, now we are going to use what we have to do to get that, because the display just give you the name and quantity. It doesn't speak about the expiration date, right? So for that, we are going to call the getter method separately. Okay, so separately we are calling the getter method with the saying that expires item 2 dot get tab. You can use tab where it says get expiration. Uh, yeah, I didn't pass this. I didn't complete this formatting. So now it says expired March 7/27 to whatever I have given here, or it will expire on whatever you have passed. Okay, so this is how you can use the inheritance concept. This is simple inheritance. Okay, so next we're going to practice multiple inheritance. If you recall, multiple inheritance means a child class will be inheriting more than one parent class. If you're creating a child class from more than one parent class, then it is called multiple inheritance. So the syntax for multiple inheritance is the class definition of parent one, class definition of parent two. How many classes? It can have even three parents. Okay. So how many parents that you are going to inherit? Base class. How many base class definition? Just define and then create the child class, derived class definition, where you have to pass those two parent classes or base classes as a parameter inside this, and then creating the object instantiation for both parent or child based on the problem. Okay, so this is the syntax. So let's look at a problem and then to understand the concept. Let's look at the problem. So we are going to look at this problem with this example, where we have brands as the parent class, which multiple attributes, and products is again another parent class, which has some definition of whether or e-commerce or some more definition, some more simple attributes. It doesn't have any methods. Okay, and then we are creating another class by inheriting these two as a parent class, which has its own attributes. Okay. Now, when you create an object, you're creating an object for popularity. You're not creating an object for these two. You're creating the object for this child class. And when that is the case, how you are able to access the other attributes from the parent class directly. Okay, it's a very simple example. You don't have any constructor or any method. Just make you to understand the multiple inheritance concept. Okay, so let's do this example. It simply has some attributes. It doesn't have any methods. Okay, let's create a class and name that as brands. This is the parent class. And name one. Let's say name one. Let's say Amazon. Name two. Online shopping. eBay. And then name three. Any kind of shopping. Okay. So these are brand names. And then we are creating another class, which is again a parent class. Products. Where we're saying product one, and we are assigning some values. E-commerce store, product 2, line store, line e-commerce store, and then product 3, online buy sell store. Okay, description of the product. And then we are going to create another class, which is going to be the child class. Okay, popularity is this class name, and we are going to inherit both first class and the second class, the products and brand, as a parent class here. Okay, multiple inheritors. Okay, so product 1, P1, product 1, popularity, say 100 or 98. And then for product 2, popularity, you can just give any value. It doesn't have any conceptual understanding, just your understanding the multiple inheritance. And then product 3, popularity, okay. Now we are going to see how we are going to combine all this value. Each of those attribute has been assigned with different classes. Now we are going to see how to access these attributes. Okay, so let's say object 1. Okay, object 1, and we're going to assign it with this popularity. So always I recommend you to have the class name with uppercase, right? So I'm changing it to uppercase. Okay, print object 1 dot. Use tab, it still will give you the attributes, not only the methods. You can even access the attributes by pressing the dot and tab. If you press the dot, it will give you all the properties of that assigned object. Okay, so here we are going to say name 1 plus, we're going to say Amazon is an online e-commerce store with a popularity. We're going to say something like that. Is an, and we're going to assign string concatenation object 1 dot tab product 1. And then we are also going to say is an, whatever it is, with a popularity. With the popularity of, so we have to do the string concatenation here. Okay, so we have to convert that into string, and only you can do it. Okay, so we have to do the string concatenation, string. Okay, so where you're saying object 1 dot tab P1 popularity. Now copy and paste and do the same thing for other products and just associate the attributes accordingly. So this time name 2, product 2, and P2 popularity. And then name 3, product 3, P3 popularity. So you can see it will give you some description by combining all the attributes. You have just created an object for the child class, but you are able to access all the attributes, okay, that is assigned to parent class. Okay, so very simple program to make you to understand the multiple inheritance concept. Okay, so next we are going to speak about multi-level inheritance. Multi-level inheritance. So we have been working on different types of inheritance with the example problems as part of this lab. So we have covered the normal inheritance and then multiple inheritance with example problems. Now we are going to see multi-level inheritance. Okay. So what is multi-level? If the for example, in real world example, if you can say that the grandchild can inherit the property of parent, the parent inherit the property of their parent, that is the grandparent. Okay, so this is kind of a similar kind of scenario. Okay, through inheriting through multi-levels. Okay, that is called multi-level inheritance. Inherit a class from a derived class, which is a derived class from some other parent class. Okay, so you can look at the syntax here. You can see A is the parent class, and that A is the parent class of B, and that B is the parent class of C. Okay, so let's look at some real world example. Kind of, I have given similar kind of examples here. Parent class is named as family. It has a method called so family, just prints out this concept, this message, and the class father inherits this family. Okay, the father is the child class which inherits the property of the parent class, and also mother is another child class which inherits the property of the parent class, and son is the class which inherits the property of these two child classes, which inherits the property of family. Okay, so each of the methods has their own attribute and methods. Okay, and when you create the object, to which class you are creating it, that makes sense. Okay, here you are creating the object for the third level class. So when you try to access mother name and father name, you can see the mother name and father name is the attributes of the son's parent class. Okay, how it can access that, and also how it can access the so family, which is the first level inheritance, right? So how it can access all of those methods, how this object can access all of those methods. Okay, that's what we are going to practice. Okay, so you can have the Jupyter Notebook cell ready. Let's try this. Okay. So ready. So let's create a multi-level inheritance example. So class is the family and it has a method. The method name is, which has the default parameter, which is self. And then it just prints out this message. Okay, and then we are creating another class, and the class name is father, which is the child class of this family class, which inherits the property of the family class, which you can see here, first level inheritance, and it has an attribute. It has an attribute, and you're just initializing that attribute, and then it has a method. The method name is so further, and as usual, we are passing the default parameter, which is self. And then to access this attribute, always you can access it through the object. So here the object is self. So whatever object is getting initialized, that one. Okay. And we are going to create the mother class with similar kind of attribute and similar kind of methods. Okay, and this has an attribute called mother name, and it has a method called mother, and we can access this attribute. Okay, and this is the second level inheritance. And next we are going to create another class. The class name is son, and this is going to inherit multiple inheritance. Okay, it is going to inherit. Sorry, I didn't change the name here. I have to change the name to mother. Okay, this son class is going to inherit father and mother, through which it can inherit the family as well. If you're not passing this family here, then the son will not be able to inherit the family. Okay, so since it inherits the father and mother, which inherits the family by default, it has the access to access all the attributes of that first level class. Okay, and here it has a method called parent, and which passes self as a parameter. And what it prints? It prints father, self dot father name. Okay, and then similarly, okay, so it has all these methods with all those values. Now, what are we going to do? We are going to do object instantiation. Okay, we are going to create object. For which class? For the son class. Okay, object instantiation. Grandchild class. Okay, now we are trying to access the attributes, that is father name and mother name, which is part of the parent class of son, right? So we should be able to access it, like how we can access the properties of the same class, we can access it. So simply we can access the properties, attributes, and we can assign the values. S1 dot mother name okay, and S1 dot show family, sorry, so parent, that is possible, and also S1 dot family, which is the part of the grandparent class, that is also possible. Okay, now let's do something for one of the parent classes. So let's say that yes to another object, and this time we are instantiating the object to the parent class. Object instantiation to the parent class. Okay, yes to dot mother name area, and then we can say S2 dot the properties of the method which belongs to the mother. It's only mother. Or even you can do this S2 dot family. That is also possible because it inherits the property. But you cannot use parent because that is the child class method. So you cannot use that. Okay, so you can see father, mother, the parent prints out the method of the grandchild class, and also it can inherit the grandparent. This is our family. Okay, that is also possible. And when you create an object for this parent class, You can assign the value. You can print out the things. You can print out this. But if you try to print out S2 dot show parent, do you think it will be what it will? Do you think it has access to that? No, it does not have the access because see, it will show mother has no attribute called show parent. Okay, so that is not possible. Okay, this is multi-level inheritance. Let's do one more example for multi-level inheritance. Okay, so for this, you can copy and paste this code. You can copy and paste the previous one, multiple inheritance, copy and paste. Let's try multi-level on the same thing. Copy and paste that, which has the brands as a class and products as a class and popularity is another class. Okay, but here we want to do the multi-level inheritance. Okay, instead of having multiple, we are going to do multi-level. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to make this products as a child class of this brands. Make this products as a child class of brands. And similarly, make this popularity as a child class of products. Called multi-level inheritance. Okay, so when you try to create the object for this without any problem, it should be the only thing. Instead of doing multiple, you have done multi-level inheritance. What is hierarchical? When we derive or inherit more than one child class from same parent class, like how siblings can inherit the properties and attributes of the parent class in real world, the same thing. When we can inherit more than one child from a parent class, then it is called hierarchical inheritance. Okay, we are going to try the same thing on the same example. Okay, we can try it from the same example. Here you can see a parent class, and this is child class of brands. And again, the popularity is also child class of brands. So that is double sibling, two sibling. Products and popularity are siblings that inherits the property of brands. And value, which is also the proper child class of brands. Okay, so this is called hierarchical. It's not grandchild. It is sibling classes. Okay, all of these sibling classes inherit the property of the parent class. Okay, so when you try to run, it can you're creating the object for products, creating object for popularity, and then you're creating object for the third one, the value, and through that you can access this parent class through all these classes. Okay, that is multi-level, sorry, hierarchical. Copy and paste the same code. Copy and paste the same code. Just make this brands as the parent class for all the classes. Also, create one more class, one more child class. And the class name is value, which is again inheriting the property of this brands class. So this particular example does not, it's like giving you syntax. Okay, no nothing like a railway scenario, but it will make you to understand the syntax. That's it. Okay. Value one, how can we say? P1 value, P1 underscore value. That means rating, excellent. P2 underscore value, better. And P3 underscore value. Again, it's just example of accessing the attributes. Good. Okay. So now here we are trying to do object one. So we are going to create the object for all these child classes, right? So object 1 equal to it is going to be the object instantiation for this products class. And then object 2 is going to be the object instantiation for popularity class. And then object 3, object instantiation for value. Okay. Now what are we going to do? Object 1 dot name 1, object 1 dot name 2, object 1 dot name 2, name 3. So do you, no, object 2, then you have to change it to object 3 for each object. Object 3, name 3. And then do the same thing because we have multiple objects. For the popularity, same thing, object 1 dot, object 2 dot, object 3 dot. Let's do the value that has the value. The rating string of object 1 dot p1 underscore value underscore value. Do the same thing for other objects. Object 2 dot and object 3 dot. P2 value and P3 value. Again, all these things just give you a hands-on in syntax, how you're accessing the properties of different. So object 2 dot, it has an error. Okay. Okay, so we can access the object 1, name 1, 2, 3, we can access. Okay. Similarly, the value is associated only with object 3. Okay, that's the reason we cannot do that. Maybe let's do the popularity separately. How can you do the popularity? Popularity is associated with only object 2. Agree? So to get the popularity, you have to go to the object 2. And you have to give the popularity as a value. Okay. We can say not the rating, popularity. Okay, I had to change the values to as well. P2 popularity and P3 popularity. To get different values. So this is how you can access, you can see now the Amazon, eBay, OLX, these values, these are the attributes. Now that attributes of the parent class is taking the advantage of using the attributes of child class in a way that you can connect it. You can link these attributes to the parent class since it has the access. Okay, so this is called hybrid inheritance. So as you know, hybrid inheritance means it satisfies more than one form of inheritance. Okay, it can have different types of inheritance. You can put it together in single construct. It's called hybrid inheritance. Here you can look at this example where we have PC as the parent class. The laptop inherits the property of the PC, and the mouse inherits the property of laptop. That is, here it is, what is this called? It is called multi-level, right? And then here the student class inherits the property of mouse and laptop, which is nothing but hierarchical. Okay, so you have single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, and multiple inheritance. Sorry, this is called multiple. And so we have all different kind of inheritance putting it together. Okay, in this construct, it is called hybrid inheritance. Okay, so here you're creating the object of student class, and then you're creating the object of this mouse class, and how it can access the values of parent class and how it works with each other. That's what we are going to see. Okay, next, hybrid inheritance. So we're defining a function one, and it has a method self. Class laptop, it inherits PC. And you have another method. It is also has self as a default parameter. And it prints laptop class inheriting PC class. And then we have mouse class. It inherits the property of this laptop class. Function 3 and self. Laptop class. Okay, and now we are going to create another class. It's going to be the multiple inheritance. Okay, the class name is student. And the student class inherits the laptop, mouse, and mouse. Self 4 and print this student class which inherits the properties of mouse and laptop. Now we are going to create the object. Object 1 is going to be the instantiation, class instantiation of student class. So that means it by default, it has the access to laptop and also PC. That means the student class has the access to function 4 and function 3 and function 2, right? Okay, let's test that. Object 1 dot, yeah, function 4, and then test it. Object 1 dot function 3, and then object 1 dot function 2. Okay, you can see it can access all the classes. And also the object one can access PC, because by accessing the laptop, it can access that PC as well. Okay, so this has the access to all. And if you see object two, let's instantiate another object. This is going to be the object of mouse class. And you can see with that object, you can inherit function. Can you? Because with the mouse, you can access laptop. Through laptop, you can access PC. So by default, you should be able to access function one. And then let's try to access function two. That is also possible because it inherits that. So it can access function two. And let's try function three, which is its own class. So it should be able to do it. Do you think it can access 4? No, it cannot access 4. Okay. When you try to instantiate, when you try to call the method function 4, then it will throw you error saying that it has no attribute. Okay, it will throw error. Next example, method overriding. So you can see what is method overriding. Overriding the method. Okay, so using the same method name for both parent class and child class. Okay, and see which method has the highest priority. Okay, whether if you're creating, for example, let's say that here the child class has print all, and even the parent class also has print all. Okay, so which method, the definition of which method will get highest priority. Okay, so that is called method overriding. Okay, so when you have the same name for method for both parent base class and derived class, the member of the child class will override the member of the parent class. Okay, that is called method overriding. Okay, we are going to see it with some example. Okay, with the same example, we are going to see. Okay, we'll try it. We'll try it. So we're going to create a parent class called animal data. Animal data. Okay, animal data. So this is the parent class, and it has constructor in it. And we're going to set some attributes for this. Okay, so how can you set the attribute? Self dot, and what are the attributes? Name, and set some string, initialize it with some value, and then age, self dot age, which is integer value. So you assign it to 0, allocating some memory space. This is the thing that we will do with other programming languages in C++, Java and all. When we create the data, we will assign some values like this. But here we do it only for this, only in constructor. When we are not assigning value, then only we'll do it in Python. Set name. Setter, if you recall, it is called setter function. Self and name is the another parameter. And then self dot name is going to be the name. Similarly, defining another method, setter for age, self age. Self dot age equal to age of this. So this age represent the age in the right hand side represent the parameter of set age. The age in the left hand side represent the parameter of the attribute of the init class. If it is confusing to you, I can just give name 1 and age 1 so that for you, you will be able to relate, but it doesn't need to. The reason why I gave it, like, it can be the same name. It may be confusing to you, but for the interpreter, it is not a problem. print all self. Dot name. And then age. Okay. Okay, we have the class definition for parent class. Now let's do the class definition for child class. The child class name is going to be pet data. And this is the child class of this animal data. And we can inherit it. So, okay. And then here it is going to have an ID. So when you when you do the constructor for the child class, which has a parent class, by default, you have to inherit the constructor as well, right? How can you inherit the constructor? Do you remember? You have to give the class name dot and then init. This is how you can inherit the constructor of the parent class. Okay, this one is different. Okay, so remember this. Self dot. This has an attribute, okay, ID. And we are initializing it to 0. And it is, in addition to that, it has its own method, which is overriding the, okay, setter function for setting the ID. Self ID1. This is the parameter, okay? Self dot ID equal to ID1. And then it also has a print all. Okay. Here, since this is what you have to learn. When you override, when you have the same method name for parent class and child class, you have to do the same kind of thing that you have done with the constructor. You have to say the class name dot print all. Then only you can have the, you can get it to print name, age, and also in addition to that, you want to print the ID. Okay, to make it to happen, this is how you can do the overriding. Okay, print underscore all of what? The class, parent class. And then in addition to that, you want to print the ID here. Self.id. Okay, you got it? So this is what you call method overriding. So you don't want to print only the ID. You want to print the ID. In addition to that, you want to print name and age as well, which is there in the parent class. To do that, you have to say the class name dot print all method. Here, class name dot constructor, the same thing here. Class name dot here you should not have the colon. Take it out. The colon should not be there. And also there is a mistake with the self placement here. Now we have defined the class for both parent class and child class. Now we are going to create an object. Okay. So the object name is pet1. And the pet1 is the parent class is going to instantiate child class. Sorry. This is the class instantiation for child class. Object instantiation for child class. Okay. Now what are we going to do? Pet1, and we are going to use the set name method to set the name for that pet. Okay. So we are going to get the input from the user and assign it here. Okay. How can we do that? Input, enter the pet name. Okay. And then let's do the same thing for age. Copy and no, let's do that. Pet1 dot set age. Input, enter the age of the pet. And then we are going to set the ID. Pet1 dot set ID. And then pet1 dot print all. Enter pet name. Yeah, enter the pet ID, set ID. Okay. Well, let me try it. Enter the age of the pet 10. Okay. Enter the age of the pet, say set age. Oh. Age of the pet 10. ID is 345. Okay. So I can see the print all has the ID printing. But since you are saying that you want to inherit the override, the print all of parent class, that is the meaning of this. Okay. It's called method override. Okay, we are going to do something like this. We are going to get employee. Employee is the child class of the person class. When person, we are reading the name, age. As an employee, we are getting the salary and skill. And we are trying to print the both information and see whether we are overriding the parent information here. Okay, let's create a class and name it as person. And define person info, self, age, name and age. You can do it in multiple ways. Okay, so here we are printing inside the person class, print name, age, so very simple method, simple example. Class employee is inheriting the person. Definition of employee info, self, salary, and then skill. It has two other its own attributes. Here you're saying print inside the employee class, you are printing out print salary, till okay. Now we are creating an object for the employee class. So what do you think that we will get? Employee, and then we are passing emp dot. So this is what you can do. Method, we can pass it without the setter, without using the setter, we can just pass it as a value. So 28, we can access it, and then we can access employee information as well. We're passing. This is as a string. Employee has no attribute called person info. Yes. But if here we have used the same different name, but if you want to use the same name here, let's do that. Let's try it. Let's try to use the same name. Here it is different name, but when you try to use the same name, here also you're going to use person info. If you want to print this, how can you do that? You have to specify person dot send info set name age. Okay, so here what are we doing? The class name dot, we are inheriting the person name. So when we try to print this, yeah, we have to pass this again.